Okay, well, hey, welcome everybody to another Tech Tip Tuesday. Here we are, the beginning of May already. We're heading right into a new month and right into a brand new Tech Tip Tuesday. So glad you guys could join us. I see some old timers in here. I see some new folks that are showing up. Awesome. Thank you guys for inviting new people. Thanks for finding us. I appreciate that. Because what we do here, I want to give you a little rundown on what we're going to do tonight. It's a chat-based forum in which we will take content from the chat and we will unpack those topics and solve them in real time. I've got tonight joining me Jake Barron from our Operations Incorporated Healy, Orlando. Hello, Jake.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for being here. And then we've got Miguel from our Customer Service Department in the background. With lightning fingers helping to
and a lot of you were able to meet Miguel, put a face to the name on What's Up Wednesday last week.
That's right. We got to see all of the customer service people, or most of them. They came on and said hello. We got to see a face with a name and a voice even. That was great. So awesome. Welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we got going on here, guys, is we will unpack things regarding the technology, the blue dot, the pink dot, issues that functionality or questions even within the systems that Healy's created. What we can't do is we can't treat, diagnose, prevent, or advise on anything that has to do with diseases, disorders, or even what programs might be addressed of those conditions. So please don't ask those things. We won't be able to address those. I'm a member in Healy World, just like most of you guys here. So I'm going to bring my expertise, experience, background, and knowledge to the table to try to help you guys with solutions. Of course, we got corporate representation in the background too. So don't be afraid. Bring up a ticket number that you've been having some challenges with, and let's see what we can do. I'm all in for bringing in some of those challenges and solving them in real time. Okay, so with that, let's get the party started. How about that?
All right.
Let's see what we got in the chat.
We had a question. The first one that I have on my screen is related to natural cycle, which is starting for a lot of us on Thursday. Yes, the 5th of May is the start date for pretty much, I think, everyone here in the Northern Hemisphere in the States, but they're asking how to get in touch with, because Terry Perez had mentioned she was going to have a group of everyone sort of using this together. And thank you for someone put that on the chat here, what her Telegram group is of how to join that. But just so everybody knows, we're going to be doing a Healy for Beginners and Beyond this Thursday. And we're going to do a deep dive into the HealAdvisor app. So we'll do part of the call on search, because that's always we always get a lot of questions on search, how to use it, how to do the scheduling and the program pool. And that app has been updated a couple of times in the last 2 months. It was updated about 3 weeks ago. And then also again, yesterday, there was a new update in the HealAdvisor app specifically for some improvements and some minor tweaks in preparation for the launch of Natural Cycle on May 5th. So we're going to go into, I'm not Nuno Nina, so I'm not going to be going into the science and the solstice and the equinox and all that kind of stuff, but I'll kind of show you how it works in the HealAdvisor app and where you go to, how you use it, what the module does, how you do the reminders, and get it set up for the first time. So we're going to go into that on Healy for Beginners and Beyond this Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I'll put that link into the chat here again, just as a reminder for everybody. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot that the Natural Cycle does, and I think that Nuno Nina kind of alluded to it in the first call. And sorry about, we don't have the recording up yet, by the way. Still trying to get that through compliance. Do we know anything about where that's at, Jake, in terms of recording of that last call?
It's still pending approval on both sides, our side and Nuno Nina's side. So
yeah, so there was some great content in there, and he talked about of course, obviously the cycles of our organs, cycles of the planetary systems and stuff, but Also the HealAdvisor app. That particular app is the liaison, I guess, or the intermediate controller. So it helps us a lot. And I think that it's gonna be a lot of fun on Thursday to hear what you guys are gonna share. So, so that's where we're gonna unpack more of it. Yeah. So for now, we're still learning too. So
we're all starting this together. So there's really only so much you can do in advance of the actual start. So we'll kind of show you how to get started and get going, but we'll all be learning kind of as we go. So, yeah.
Right on. Okay, so no blue dot working on either of my Healys. Uh-oh. So that's kind of a blanket statement. Carl is saying that the blue dot's not working. Now, I saw some chatter in one of the groups about the access to the server being challenged. Jake, have you seen anything about that?
No, I mean, the last update in the Analyse app was a few weeks ago. So it wasn't anything recent, especially in the last few days, related to that. I guess, error, user has no access, or synchronization failed. There hasn't been any server changes or updates, so I'm not sure here. I see there's another question about an error message regarding sync. So let's see what else we have. And Miguel put into the chat here to check a few things related to the connection and everything, but
so the sync failures, sync failures are a big thing when it comes to the blue dot sync failures. Gosh, we've kind of gone through a lot of sequencing in the past as to what I know, so you guys that are having some of these issues are familiar. You guys are veterans. In terms of how to operate this. So going back to the basics of sequencing and making sure that the protocol is followed for that, including logging out of your Blue Dot app and logging back in to refresh that. But let's back up for a minute, because I want to make sure that one of the things we tend to miss, well, I think I tend to miss too, is our actual Wi-Fi itself, or even our cellular data network. I've found a couple of intermittent issues with connecting even on the cellular data network. Now, is that my network? Is it something going on maybe satellite wise or globally? I don't know, but retrying it over and over again tends to give another opportunity for connection. But when it comes to the Wi-Fi, if we start having repeated issues, turn your Wi-Fi router off for a moment and then back on to let it cycle through. See if that can give some insight or some changes with your connection, starting with the exterior devices, working your way all the way into the actual app itself. Anything you want to add there, Jake?
No, I mean, again, as you mentioned, we have a lot of veterans on this call here, and they've tried a lot of the known troubleshooting. So, I personally haven't come across these issues today so far, but if it's, in the last hour or so, maybe something has changed, but we will, Miguel and I will certainly follow up with the team in Germany first thing in the morning, just to see if there's anything that has changed. But as far as we know, there's been no updates or changes to anything. So so again, when it winds up being multiple people having the similar issue, like synchronizations or access failures, then we can start looking at something that has to do with the cloud itself, or what's going on with the server. Of course, right now it's wee hours of the morning in Germany. We probably won't get anybody. I'm just curious that the people that are having issues, if you could just put it in the chat here, if you're using Apple products, iOS, or if this is Android, to see if there's any sort of common issue here.
Yeah. Also, I haven't seen the chat there. Are you switching your Wi-Fi off and attempting to connect in that regard? So that you
Yeah,
are.
it looks like they are. So we have Apple and Android, and tried using without Wi-Fi. So seems to be
So
all over the place.
You've done all the tricks. So that means if we look at things logically, we work our way from the outside in or from the inside out, either direction, we can start eliminating failure areas. And so these things, by the fact that it's happening across 2 different iOS or operating system platforms, it's also happening whether it's Wi-Fi or cellular data network, then it's quite possible we're looking at an access issue to the server. And I'm not aware of anything that's down. Haven't gotten any notices about maintenance, but there again is what we were going to have to send some notes into Germany. Submitting a service ticket or a CS ticket is going to be a good idea to get as much data as possible. Let's see what else we got.
There was a question a little bit up here related to the HealAdvisor app, the one with the wave, as people like to call it on the background, that it wasn't working. So she was advised to delete the app and reinstall, but now it won't let her log into the HealAdvisor app. So
yeah,
the login for that app is the same as the Analyse app, which is the same as that. It's all one login and password. So
yeah,
I would maybe just double check that didn't accidentally type it in wrong, possibly, or so a lot of times that happens to me when I'm quickly sort of going through things, and if there's a capital in there versus lowercase, and kind of messing that part up. But I would start with that, try that 1 or 2 more times first, and then could delete again and start one more time and restart the phone and then try to log back in.
Another thing to remember, that the same server that supports the HealAdvisor app is the same one that supports the HealAdvisor Analyse app, which is the same server that supports the shop, the back office, and everything. So if there's troubles with the Blue Dot app and it is corporate related or server related, it's going to transcend across all the platforms. So even placing an order would be a challenge. So I mean, we're starting to see a pattern here. If we're seeing the Advisor app as well as the Analyze app having issues in terms of login, I'm thinking we need to look at the server.
Yeah, we'll certainly follow up on that particular issue, because if you can't use it, that's certainly an issue.
Yeah. Okay.
We got a question here regarding the Analyze app, not an issue with it working or not, but the question that's come up a few times on this call is, when you're using the Analyze app, do you have to remove the cables, or does it make a difference? So this person always takes them out. I'm assuming they weren't wearing any of the wristbands or anything like that, but the cables were still in there. She always makes it a point to take those out. Does that even matter? Ken, you've talked about this many times on the call. A lot of people ask, can I use the Coil with the Analyze app, or does it matter with the cables? Is there anything actually going through those connection ports when using the Analyze app?
Yeah, and these are great questions. If we look at things from a logical perspective, for instance, if we're running the Pink Dot app, then obviously there's going to be power or output through the cable ports, because that's where the microcurrent is going to go through. And it doesn't matter if you have wires connected or not, or the cable or the coil connected or not, there's still going to be an output to those ports where the wires go, the plus and minus port on the Healy. When you're using the Blue Dot, there is nothing coming out of those ports. Okay, there's no microcurrent, there's no signal at all. That part of the circuitry is just not engaged, so it's lying dormant. in the function during that blue dot application. So whether you're plugged into it or not, it's not really relevant. I mean, you can be plugged in, you're not going to hinder the progress, you're not going to improve the progress. When it comes to the coil, I want to tell you that's a little bit different story, because the coil itself is a physical coil of wire, a conductor, and it is plugged in onto the back side of the Healy, which is on the same side as the quantum sensor. It's on that side of the circuit board, on the clip side of your device, of your hardware. And so a coil of wire, if we look at transmission, say a radio wave signal from a radio station, from an antenna somewhere, a radio wave transmission is electromagnetic, and it sends it out into the airwaves, and that magnetic signal then, when it encounters any conductor, an antenna on your car, a piece of metal fence post sticking up in the air, whatever it is, when that magnetic wave comes across another metal conductor, it imposes the information the magnetic wave contains into that metal conductor or that antenna. Your body is the same thing, it's an antenna. So if you have the coil attached to the backside of the Healy, and the quantum sensor is sending out a magnetic wave, it's gonna go into the coil, create a current flow in the coil, and then have to recreate a new wave. So it's going to have some sort of impedance, some sort of an influence. So I don't recommend having the coil plugged in when you're running the Blue Dot app. There's no purpose for it. There's no evidence saying it's assisting. There's no evidence saying it's hindering either. Theoretically, I'm going to say from a technical standpoint, it could have a hindrance in terms of the signal strength, as well as strength equates to distance. So I wouldn't have the coil connected if you're running anything in the Blue Dot. I would not have the wires connected when you're running anything in Blue Dot. It's not necessary. So that's if there's any more to add to that, Jake, but that's pretty much what I've covered before.
No, I certainly, I think I understand the reason we get the question. A lot of times people, they don't necessarily think or want to get anything out of the coil. They just don't want to lose the coil. They just leave it plugged in there because, you don't want to take it out and put it down and misplace it, whatever. So I think that's a lot of times it comes up where it's just, oh, I'll just leave it in there because it's secure, there.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I just, in terms of the electronics principles, the electrical propagation of wave, and the principles associated with that, when you are transmitting a magnetic wave and then inducing it into another antenna or receiver, and then transmitting it again, you're going to negate the signal. It's just going to decrease its amplitude. So, I just wouldn't do it. Just for that reason. I wanted to get the most out of my Blue Dot. Of course, it's all intention work. In other words, the client is the direction, and they can be across the planet or on another planet, and it's still quantum entanglement still engages that client. So does the coil going to interfere with that? Well, not really. Again, it's just not, theoretically, it's not something that's beneficial.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So we've got a question here. It says, my Healy isn't turning off after I've closed any open apps on the Pink app. And she remembers that saying that closing it manually isn't a good thing. What do you suggest? So she tried doing hard closes, but nothing changed. So
yeah.
I guess there's nothing wrong with doing a hard close if you're trying to completely close out of the app. I guess I'm not exactly clear on that, but if you're saying it's not turning off, it sounds like the program's still running in the background, even though you've closed the app.
Yeah, and that's what's going to happen. So once a program is loaded onto the Healy memory, the Healy is going to stay on. So in other words, you press the power button, the Healy comes on, green light starts to flash at a rate of 1 flash per second. Then two things here. You don't have to do anything because the last program loaded on the Healy will automatically start running. All right. Or second thing, you've told the app to load a new program, and you see that loading process happen by the indication of the green light flashing now at a rate of 2 flashes per second. That's content being downloaded, and the Bluetooth light starts to flash because it's connected via the Bluetooth signal to the app, and the app is transmitting content to the Healy by the indication of that green light flashing 2 flashes per second. When that process of loading is done, now the Healy will operate on its own. It will run that program through its entirety. If it's 20 minutes, if it's 50 minutes, whatever the length of time it is, it'll run it through its entirety. Now, if you hard close the apps on your smart device, that's irrelevant of whether the Healy is going to continue running or not. It will. It'll continue to run, and that green light will flash at a rate of 1 flash per second. But when you close the app, the blue light, the Bluetooth light goes off because there's no longer an app supporting that Bluetooth connection. So that goes off. So the Healy hardware is still functioning. It's still on. The green light will flash at a rate of 1 flash per second. And the only way to stop that is by pressing momentarily on the power button. That literally just turns the Healy off. You don't have to reset the Healy by pressing and holding it for 10 seconds. Just momentarily press and hold. You'll see that green light go off. Now the Healy has stopped the last program it was running, and it's in dormant mode. All right.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't want that program to continue running, just push that power button.
Just turn it off.
Yeah, no harm in that. So.
Nope, won't hurt anything.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question about, is it okay to run Blue Dot app programs while it's charging? So this is an interesting question because the Pink Dot app, you can't run a program while it's charging by design, because the way that the connection cables are, and then the charging port, you can do one at a time, not both. So that's by design, of course, because of you're connected to technically wristbands to the wall, I guess, in a sense. But with the Analyse app, I know because a lot of people do run programs overnight. It's running while they're sleeping, whatever. And if it's not charged fully before, I know a lot of people might have it plugged in while they're running. And Miguel put a comment in the chat here as far as official Healy recommendation. But I'm just curious, Ken, from an engineering perspective, with what the Analyse app is actually doing, if there'd be any sort of interference there.
Yeah. So the of course, corporate recommendation is going to be to the most safest modality for the device and the hardware, and that makes sense. And then also, like Jake mentioned, by design, you cannot plug the lead wires into the Healy at the same time as the charge wire is connected, for the reason he mentioned, that we don't want, for medical reasons. This is a class 2 medical device. It's designed so that you can't be connected with any kind of conductive material from the wall outlet to the human body. So you've got that cord that goes from the wall outlet into the charging port. And then if you had connections from the Healy to the human body, now we have a potential closed circuit for 120 volts, right? That's potentially dangerous. So that's why by design, those ports won't allow the connection. But the Blue Dot, now that's not using those cables. So of course you can still plug the cable in and you'll see the app will function. And that's also by design. You notice that the fact that it can actually happen, then that means that it can actually function that way. Meaning that if you're running it all night, you can certainly plug it into the charger and then run the app all night long in the Blue Dot function. Now, if you'll notice, if you've ever plugged the Healy in, not connected your cables, and then try to run a Pink Dot app, you ever tried that? Well, what you'll see is when you open the Pink Dot app, with the Healy hardware plugged into the charging cable, you'll see up the top battery indicator will be red in color because it shows it's charging. It's actually red and some number up there. But also, if you go and try to load a program, so in other words, choose a program and then load it, it'll say, sorry, can't perform this function while plugged in. But it doesn't do that in the blue dot, okay? And that's because that particular software is still functional with it plugged in. I don't recommend doing it habitually, okay? In other words, if you do it every night, the charge cycle, the Healy charge and discharge cycle it's a organic cycle. In other words, if you use the device over and over again, you're going to deplete the battery on a natural function, and then it's going to be dead, and you're going to need to charge it up, and you're going to want to charge it up fully. In other words, when you plug it in, you'll see the green light go on. When it's done, it goes off. That means it's fully charged and ready to do that cycle again. If you're constantly plugging it in and not allowing that cycle to deplete, you're going to create a routine that's not going to support a full battery life. Okay, so can you do it every now and then? Sure, it's not going to hurt anything. But make sure that you go ahead and unplug the Healy and use it fully until it goes dead, and then charge it in up again before you use it the next time. So you got to get that charge cycle proper. If you continuously plug the Healy in, run it overnight, unplug it the next day, use it, you're going to start creating some sort of a different cycle that may not be healthy. But every now and then you're fine. All right.
Okay. The interesting comment here earlier on that said someone just watched a YouTube video where they're using the Healy on a horse, and they were using the blue dot app with the wires, but the pink dot app without anything. So I don't know if they had it just backwards, possibly, but I've never heard of anything specific to horses to where you would ever reverse those, because that's not how it's designed to work. So I don't know if maybe they did something backwards in the video. But yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people do use the animal kit with horses. I know there's a big group of people that do that, and it had a lot of great results. But yeah, other than yeah.
No, I think that's a typo.
Yeah.
or a video O.
Yeah, maybe it's edited wrong. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, it's when you're running microcurrent, I mean, either one, honestly, when you're running the microcurrent and you're running the pink dot app and you're running the wires, remember at the same time, the quantum sensor or noise generator is sending the same signal out into the field. So even if you're not connected and you're running the pink dot and you have assigned meaning or intention to the program, then that information is still going to go from Healy to the intended target. So it's just a different modality. You're working with the energetic body and not so much the biological body, the electric body. The electric body is when you're connected the cables to the body. Now you're speaking to the electric body. Okay, when you're working at just energetic body, then you're sending magnetic signals or from the noise generator, frequency signals. That's different, it's like sound waves from a radio touching your body. They're going through your ears as well, and you're decoding it through the audio system, but those same sound waves are touching your body and having influence on the cellular structure. Okay, so yeah, I think
they just mentioned that they were in New Zealand, so that explains it. Southern Hemisphere, you reverse everything, right?
There we go. Maybe that's it.
Okay. Let's see. There was a question here. I guess I'll answer this one here, but it was about how long does it take free Healys that were earned to be sent out? Not necessarily a tech question, but I'll cover this one. I guess when people earned them years ago, it took 6+ months to get their free Healy, which that's not good at all. Certainly should not take that long. But the way it currently works is there's a promotion period, say there's a promotion going on through the end of May. So at the end of the promotion period, there's a 2-week, everyone has a 2-week return period here from the date they receive it. So basically we do a 3-week. It's a 2 weeks plus the 1-week buffer for items to be delivered and everything like that. So typically sometime after the 21st of the following month is when the final list is generated. And then from there, orders start to be created for those free items. So it doesn't take 6 months, but from when the qualification period ends, typically takes, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks on average there.
Okay, so we're still having lots of chat about the blue dot.
Yeah, this is an interesting one related to the blue dot, not an issue with it functionality, but they connected their phone, they were charging their phone and they were connected to their Healy via Bluetooth, of course. And then as they were vibrating their Healy, they said that their Healy charged up as well, even though it wasn't plugged in. So I said, is that supposed to happen? I wonder if this could be just maybe a sensor, battery sensor sort of fluke as it was being used, because it's not an exact reading of the battery.
Right, that battery charge indicator at the top right of the screen in the app is just an algorithm. So it's just taking a mathematical equation and predicting the actual battery voltage at any given moment. So now, can that be altered? Sure. I mean, it could definitely be altered. Can it be altered by your phone being plugged in? No, not necessarily. There's not that connection is not, let me put it this way, it's not scientifically proven. Okay, so in other words, there is no connection between your phone being plugged into a charger and the link to Healy and it charging that battery. Can the algorithm change its story? Sure. I mean, that's, again, we're just talking about a program, an app on your phone. And so it can rewrite some of the content in real time. One of the things I would look at is, are you having any other odd responses on that phone? So in other words, are your texts, when you're doing a text, when you type out letters or characters, do they take a while for them to show up on the screen? Does it freeze sometimes, the cursor, and you have to wait? Or are just other oddities within functions of apps on your smart device? Are they also happening simultaneously? Because that's an indication that there's something going on with the CPU and the allocations of the memory. Maybe your smart device is getting a little bit full. Just other oddities that's not Healy related. So no, I've never heard anybody's Healy battery being charged by their cell phone being plugged in. Nope.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, and the other thing too is, okay, so it went from 34% to 83%. There's, if we are, let me put it this way, sometimes when you relax a battery, in other words, when I say relax a battery, when you relax a battery's load, like a flashlight, for instance, you got your flashlight and you're using your flashlight, it's going dimmer, 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 dimmer. And then you turn it off and set it down somewhere. You relax the battery's load and then you go back and turn it on again and it's brighter. Well, that's because you relaxed the battery's load. You turned it off for a minute and it had time to regroup, essentially. So Healy's no different. The battery in Healy's no different. If you're running microcurrent, switch over to running blue dot transmission vibration frequencies, then your battery can be lower under microcurrent. Take that drain off, allow the battery to relax and run vibrate mode. That battery indicator could certainly go up. It can go higher. That's like the flashlight getting brighter because there's less load on it. Okay.
All right, another couple comments here on error messages. So we'll make a note of those and follow up with the tech team on those. There's a question about the connection cables are not providing a connection and need to be replaced. How quickly can I expect to receive them? So if you're placing an order for cable, say you place that order today or tonight, in general, that would ship tomorrow. And then depending on where you live, it would either ship from our warehouse near Atlanta or one in the Salt Lake City area of Utah. And then in general, the whole United States, the lower 48 is covered within a 3 business day transit time. So some people get their orders the next day, depending on when they place the order. But in general, from the date it's shipped, you should get it within 1 to 3 business days.
I just had that condition actually with I received a Healy with only 1 cable in it. So I put in a service ticket. I got new cables. I actually got a set of 2. Thank you for the bonus. Sent to me, and I received them in 3 days from the time I submitted my ticket. So that's from the time I submitted my ticket. And that typically takes another 24 hours sometimes for the ticket to be generated, you know, but yeah, no, from the time I submitted my ticket, I got my cables in 3 days. So it's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to say when you say your cable stopped working, aside from maybe an end being broken off completely, I would suspect I'd actually first start to prove whether the cables are bad or not. And not that you don't need them. I'm just saying that there's a way to test that. And the way to test that really simply is to turn on a microcurrent program from the pink dot, connect the cables to the Healy, connect the cables to the wristbands. Don't put the wristbands on your wrists, but take the intersection, the parts that would normally touch your skin on the left wristband, the right wristband, whichever ones they are, and touch them together. So in other words, the conductive material that would normally touch your skin on the wristbands, touch them together, and then increase the current output or the intensity on your Healy on the app. Increase the intensity up to, I don't know, 50%, maybe even 70%, whatever. Hold those wristbands together and see if they are, if you're getting a white indicator. So anything other than like an in breaking off, yeah, they're toast. You need some new ones. But if you're getting, sometimes people are getting these intermittent black signals, you know, the indicator saying it's no connection. First do that conductive test that I just gave you, and let's make sure and rule out the fact that it's just something to do with, you know, the body it's connected to. I know it's not your body, but still, let's just find out. All right.
All right, we got one of our top questions here coming up next, Ken, so get ready.
Okay.
Can someone please explain the difference between running the pink app with the cables? There's one program in the protection group, or with the Coil. Do they both work on the magnetic field? What are the differences in distance, effect, etc.? And before we kind of go into this one, I just know once we add in the Mag Healy, our Tech Tip Tuesdays are going to get even difference between the cables versus vibrating versus the Coil versus the Mag Healy versus the Atmosphere versus the Classic versus the McMakin. So,
yeah. We're going to add a whole new category of questions, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is layering. We're talking about layering here. And, you know, we have the physical body layer. We have the energetic body layer. And when I say energetic body layer, I want you to think about that for a minute. When you first meet someone, you get this energetic impression, like you either like them, you don't like them, you know, you've known them forever, you don't, you know, you're suspicious of whatever. You get this energetic reading, because this energetic reading is how we interface with the body. This is information coming off the body because of the nervous system and the energy transferring from the brain to the different extremities, or even the thought process of the energy going through neurons and building thought. That's energy emitting from the body. and that's being read by other bodies. So we have this electric body, this energy body, and we have this spiritual body, right? The spiritual body again is a quantum field body, right? This representation on the non-physical plane. So these are all the different ways that Healy interfaces with us. And specifically, if we assign which app or which connection modality is assigned to which realm, well, if we look at the pink dot and connecting the cables to the body, now we're working with this physical body. We're sending current flow, electron flow into the physical body, and it's carrying specific frequencies to address different tissues, organs, cells, or issues within the body. So that's the pink dot connected to the cables. Now, also within the pink dot, you see the protection program, right? That program that shows you just putting the Healy in your pocket. Now, if you were to connect the cables to the Healy during one of those programs and run one of those programs, you're still going to feel microcurrent coming out of those cables into the body. Okay, it's still doing the same thing. But the protection programs are designed, let me back up, not just the protection programs, but that's where it starts to show evidence that those programs are designed to work with the energetic body, right? Not the physical body so much, but the energetic body, the magnetic body, the signaling body that we're interfacing with. Because you can just put the Healy in your pocket, turn the program on, and the energy emitting out of the Healy is doing its job in your environment or in your body. So the other pink dot programs do the same thing simultaneously while they're sending that information out of the ports of the Healy into the cables. So the protection page now starts to demonstrate that we can use this in two different ways, right? But what's the most effective way? The most effective way is when it's a pink dot program, it's the microcurrent program, and the design was made to infuse microcurrent into the body. That's the most effective way. And so you want to connect the cables. That's just design, right? We can modify that with our own concepts, beliefs, and perceptions. We can modify that and do it all kinds of ways and feel an effect because we believe in the modality. But the design is as I described. With the protection page, shows you not connected. You can still connect or not connect, but the design was not to connect. In the pink dot, there's no cable connections. It was designed to operate in the information field, okay, the spiritual body. So we're just giving you content about how it's designed. You, as a consciousness of intelligence, can do it all kinds of ways. And then just log down your results. But remember, you're experimenting on you first. This is you. Experiment on you. You're not going to sue yourself or find yourself liable or have any kind of contraindicators with yourself because you're taking on responsibility for these tests. But don't advise someone else to use it in ways that it wasn't designed. Okay. Experiment first and then expand from there. All right.
Okay. Excellent answer as always, Ken. Okay. So there was a question here. Miguel already answered it, but we'll just go into this real quick. It says it was a really embarrassing question. I don't think there's any embarrassing questions on Tech Tip Tuesday, are there, Ken? This is, yeah. So, but it was related to syncing in the Blue Dot app. So for the past year, she's always run a full sync while connected to the Healy. Is that necessary to actually be connected to the Healy device? Or can you sync without the connection, Bluetooth connection to the device? So this is something that it's from a year ago, it's actually changed because before when you would log into the Analyse app, you had to connect to the Healy device before you could access and view clients, lists, that kind of stuff. That's probably been what, 6 months or so ago now that it's sort of changed where you can, when you log into the Analyse app, you can view, edit all your clients, all the lists, all that kind of stuff, and do a sync without actually doing the Bluetooth connection to your Healy device. So it's not an embarrassing question because it's different than the way it used to be. But yeah, you can, I just logged into mine here too. And without connecting to my Healy device, did a full sync. And so I do sort of understand, certainly all the error messages that have been posted in the chat today, we'll follow up on those. It's definitely not for everybody because I know some people have reported everything's working fine. My Analyze app is working fine right now, but we will definitely follow up on all those issues. So
Yeah, I like the question because the cool thing, and I'm super grateful for the way that Healy reassigned the app, because why not be able to do all the admin stuff without actually having to connect to the Healy hardware, right? I mean, that makes sense to me, and just be able just use the Healy hardware when it's necessary, such as the analytics. When it's time to do an analytics or time to do an application, sending or vibrating, yeah, then it makes sense to connect to the Healy. But everything else, why not be able to do the admin part, putting in a client, doing all that kind of stuff before we need the Healy? I think that's a brilliant move and a very smart way to do it. So and I like this, another question here about, was the coil designed to replace the wristbands? We talked about this before, right? Was the coil designed to replace the wristbands? No. The long and the short answer is no. It was never designed to replace. The coil was designed to be a different modality of delivery, a magnetic modality of delivery, but not any magnetic modality of delivery, but a very distinct dual magnetic signal system. So it's got two actual magnetic signals coming out of the coil in opposition of each other. They're 180 degrees out of phase with each other. And their purpose for that is to build a zero vector space between those two magnetic fields. And what's in that zero vector space is you. And so by keeping the Healy close to your body, because the transmission comes out from essentially the two magnetic fields transmit out, say, from the front and from the back, or from the clip side and the non-clip side, straight out from the casing, straight out. So kind of like a dome, right, out the front and a dome out the back. And what's in the middle of those two magnetic fields is you. If you're wearing it on your clip, like I am on my lapel here, or if I had it on my collar, it's flat against my body. So one magnetic field's transmitting in front of me and one magnetic field's behind me. I'm in that what's called zero vector space. And that's where the frequencies are dropped in. That oscillation of those frequencies are right in the middle. So I'm kind of building myself a pretty cool magnetic umbrella or bubble that I'm in the center of, and I'm receiving the content of the frequencies that program's designed to do. So not the same as the cables, and the proximity that the Healy has to your body is relevant because of the reason I just described. The two magnetic signals are going opposite each other in that direction. So if you have it sitting on the table across the room, then maybe the magnetic signals are going straight up to the ceiling and straight down to the floor. Remember, they're also oscillating omnidirectionally, so they're going horizontally as well as vertically. So the closer it is to you when you're running the coil, the better. And just understand orientation is also relevant. Okay.
Okay, we had Beth mention that she has a client who notices a burnt plastic smell when running Healy and the pink or blue dot apps, not while charging, just while running programs. She's had it for about a year. Any thoughts? I would submit a support ticket for that. That should not happen. So I don't know if there's something that could have happened while charging it that may have caused this, power surge, something's messed up inside of the Healy device itself. But I would submit a support ticket, include as many details as possible on that issue.
Yeah. So the two pins that come out of the Healy hardware, they are connected to a current transmitter or a current generator. And just like when I told you to take those two wristbands and touch them together, touching them together closes the circuit. We're just doing that temporarily for a minute or a couple seconds, just to see if there's actually conduction by the indication of that white circle, the white light. But if something's internally of your Healy shorting out those two pins, then that can heat up the circuit. And if it's heating up the circuit, you'll get that plastic smell, because when you know what it's like when you melt plastic or something, or heat up plastic, it smells, it puts off a scent. So definitely putting a ticket on that. That would be something I would, as a technician that got a Healy in that had that condition, I would want to open it up and find out what's going on. I'm curious like that.
Yeah. Okay. Question about the batteries here. What happens to our Healys when the batteries die? Do they have to be sent back to Germany? So we do not send any devices back to Germany for repair or anything like that. If your device needs to be replaced under warranty because of a battery, we'll certainly do that. If a couple of years from now, when you're out of warranty, it needs to be replaced, you can just there's a replacement fee. It's not the full price for your device. It's a 300 euro, around $350 plus tax replacement fee. No matter which edition you have, if you're professional, they cost $4,000. It's still the same $350 fee, and all of your old programs will be loaded onto the new device. If you need to be replaced because of the battery, or if you lost it, or whatever happened to it. So that's the kind of the process there. But they're not actually we do ship them back to Germany because they're taken apart and reviewed and inspected, that kind of thing, but they're not sent there to be repaired and then sent back to us. So it's kind of more of a learning thing and research to see what may have caused certain failures.
Well, I don't know if you remember, when the cell phones first came out, there was like early on, there was phones that you could change the batteries in, and then you couldn't, right? They wanted you to buy a new phone. And there's reasons for that, because of some of the delicate circuitry and as well as a very proper battery. You know how it is, people who want to get more performance out of an electronic or electrical component, they'll put a bigger battery in or something with more current. And that tends to negate some of the integrity of the device. So manufacturers just eliminate the possibility of us tinkering with things. So you just have to replace the hardware. And there is a life expectancy of the battery. And typically it's years though, properly maintained, you can get years out of it. And I'm not going to quote any time yet. Healy's still new. I don't think we don't have anything out there that's, more than 4 years old. Honestly, I think we don't have anything. Well, the US, we don't have it much older than 2 years old.
Yeah. Really, the first devices were shipped this month. So 2 years ago.
2 years barely.
Yeah.
I remember I was one of the first ones. I literally ordered mine at 3:01 a.m. On the 1st of May when it was first available. Actually, it was on the 29th. It was in April because it was already 1 o'clock in Germany. It was already over midnight. Anyway, and I was like, my invoice number was one of the first invoice numbers. And it took me a very long time to get my Healy. So anyway, it was great.
Question here about the connection cables. So it was, what would cause the cables to malfunction? They're not very old, and I've been very careful and gentle whenever I've removed them. So, they are when I first remember when I first got the cables, I was like, oh, these are really kind of thin, you know, like I have to be really careful with them. And I've had my original cables for almost the whole year and a half. I'm on the original cables that I've had since I've been here, and they've held up really well. But you know, I think all it takes is one snag or one whatever, and you could have a potential issue there. So I think it's always good, especially if you've been with Healy for a while, to have at least an extra cable on hand, if not an extra pair on hand, because you notice on our shop we sell them. They're not sold in pairs; they're sold individually. Because a lot of times you might not need two; you might just want to have one extra on hand. Say a lot of people might be, if you're cooking or whatever, and you're chopping up some stuff and you accidentally cut through that cable. All it takes is that one cut, and then you might be waiting a few days to get a backup a pair of cables. So I think it's always good to have at least one extra on hand, if not an extra pair. So Ken, what you've had a lot of cables over time, and what would you say about the durability or having extras?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty rough on things. I'm telling you, I break stuff so bad. I catch stuff on things. I'm active, and I wear my Healy. I mean, I wear my Healy when I'm working out. I wear my Healy when I'm mowing the lawn. I wear my Healy when I'm doing all kinds of stuff. And I primarily utilize the microcurrent because I understand the influence on, ATP production or cellular structures. I understand that. And so my cables get, run for their money. And I've certainly broke them. I've ripped them apart. I've never chopped one up yet, but I mean, that's probably going to happen. But I always have extras. I've got probably 5 sets of cables. I tell you, I want to not have, to not be able to use my Healy. So I have backups, and it's a great idea. Absolutely have backups. One is better. One is good. 2 is better.
Yeah. I think I snag mine every single day, multiple times on my chair at work, my office chair, and I like try to get up. Oh, yeah, they're still going, the original pair.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been really rough on mine, and I've got some that are my original cables still working.
Yeah.
And then of course, but if you snag on something and rip them apart, then they're no good. But I as an engineer, I actually modify those cables that I tear up as other. I make them into other stuff where I can connect other things to my Healy. I'm not going to go into that though.
Nice. Well, Ken, can you believe it that it's 9 o'clock already? The hour flew by again.
I know it. It's amazing how fast things going. I'm sorry if we didn't get all your questions, guys. I mean, thank you so much though for participating and bringing some great stuff to the table. Please join us again next week as we unpack some more, and hopefully we can get to your questions. And of course, if you know anybody out there that's having questions and we can help unpack some of this stuff for you guys, bring them to the call, invite somebody, and let everybody know that this is available. It's always posted on the USA Team Healy USA Telegram group. And then there's always the recordings within the YouTube page. And remember, tomorrow is What's Up Wednesday. There's going to be some review of some amazing stuff that was covered on the frequencies and friends. Oh my gosh, guys, you got to be there tomorrow. We'll go through that, the great special coming up, and how you can earn your own Mag Healy. Mm-hmm. Don't forget to join us tomorrow. And then, of course, as Jake said, the frequency or the Healy for Beginners and Beyond this Thursday, diving into the HealAdvisor app. Yahoo! Yeah. Right. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for being here. Big loves. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Miguel. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next week, huh?
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.